our nose. We smell food and liquids. We taste food and liquids. We often smell them before we ever taste them. Haven't you ever smelled something going somewhere or going into someone's house? And, or familiar foods like, going home to family and someone's baking and you just start salivating. You haven't even put anything in your mouth yet. You're like, come here. So, we have such a limbic brain connection to this nose. And that's all smell related. Okay, pleasure. Food pleasure comes from smell and taste. So here we have our mouth. Now in our mouth we have one very important enzyme, though there's many, and it's called amylase. If you don't have that primary enzyme, and by the way, enzymes are actually, the better name for enzymes would be, if we called them by their proper name, protein enzymes. Enzymes are made by protein. Complete protein, complete enzymes. Complete protein, complete amino acids. So sometimes I think that's an important word, to kind of put in there. You don't just eat fruit and get enzymes. There's many ways to get enzymes. Even vitamins and minerals in every food you could think of are enzymatic. They have a function, But all proteins are split and stored in the body. All enzymes are stored in the body by protein. So if we don't have that amylase in our mouth, we can never convert a starch, a carbohydrate. That might even be not being able to convert kale, and you see it in your bowels. Don't just think gluten. Don't just think carbohydrate or carbs. In fact, the biggest group of carbohydrates we have are vegetables. In fact, they have more of the word hydrate than they do the word carb that has become this bad word. But, we get dietary fiber from these, but you do need to be able to split them. This is why gluten has become such an issue. I'm in agreement with that because we don't have this conversion going on. Okay, so amylase is the most important thing in the mouth to know. You have your salivary glands, which are very important too because they're part of the hose on the compost. They're making sure everything's lubricated and can get down to the next part, which is the esophagus. Now, if there was anything I was going to say about the esophagus, it's like we need this amylase, we need the probiotics that are in that amylase, we need the salivary glands spitting out that fluid so that, nothing gets lodged in the esophagus. If something got lodged in the esophagus, literally you would, choke. You would choke, you wouldn't be able to breathe. So it is definitely a primary channel that cannot be obstructed, But the most important thing I think about the esophagus is the hiatus. It's this little muscle, this little band of striated muscles that are right where the esophagus meets the stomach. And it actually, the food drops and then that band of muscle, peristalsis-wise, it just keeps breaking it up so that it goes into the stomach in tinier little bits. And it makes sure you don't have that sensation of boosh, because that's what would happen if you didn't have that. And it would be too straight a plumbing. I mean, there's reasons why we put U-joints in plumbing in our homes, so that it doesn't just have too big of a gravity pull. So that little hiatus, which is how people get hiatal hernias. You guys have heard of a hiatal hernia? So a hiatal hernia is when that hiatus muscle is really inflamed. So if it looks like this and it gets inflamed, you think it's inflaming like this, but in actuality, when it inflames inside and out, and it ends up making this tiny little hole from inflammation that food has to get through, which is why people choke, when they're eating, when they have hiatal hernias. That's their biggest risk. And also, that inflammation makes it where food sits in the esophagus too long, and then it putrefies, and then, it gives them a lot of heartburn, a lot of odor, a lot of halitosis in the mouth, because there's putrefied food that hasn't seeped down in and gotten through the system. So that's a pretty important little muscle there, helping you with the gravity of your food, the the first breakdown, well, second breakdown of your food. Your teeth were the first. You know, everything in your mouth is first, but this is that second little spot. Then we have the stomach. The stomach sits right, you know, right here at the xiphoid process, at the diaphragm, so it sits right here. And, you know, Ayurveda has an interesting way to explain like length and size of your organs, not just a liver or a stomach, but yours and yours and yours. They do it all by Anjali. An Anjali is a handful. Even all their recipes will be like 4 Anjalis. It means 4 handfuls of sugar, you know what I mean, type of thing, you know, or they'll be like, you know, 1 Anjali of rice. So you want to know that word, A-N-J-A-L-I. But they do everything by Anjali. So like, for instance, they say the esophagus is the size from the bottom of your shoulder to your ankle, to your wrist. That's your esophagus. The stomach is the size, it's the size of 1 fist. It has the expansion level of 2 fists, 2 Anjalis. And it would say 2-fisted Anjalis. So that's the size. It should never expand beyond that. When it's empty, it should, you know, be about the size of 1 fist. Okay? So your stomach, and I will explain more, your stomach has it has alkalizing agent, pepsin. And this will be in your book. And it also has an acid for like, what if you need more fire to break some food down? But not a bad word, acid. It's an important acid called hydrochloric acid. So you have pepsin and hydrochloric acid. You have an alkalizing agent and an acidic, a hot agent, a cold agent that's working for you, that help work, you know, take care of each other according to what food's in there. Okay, so that's the primary idea of your stomach. If it's too hot, then you're going to need a little bit of that pepsin to alkalize. If you ate too cold, you're going to need that hydrochloric acid to liquefy and break it down. Once we get out of the stomach, we have 3 parts to our small intestines, which is considered 3 to 4 inches around the belly button. Okay, the colon's kind of more up here. So this is all small intestine. And the small intestines, you have your first part of the small intestines, which is called the duodenum. And the duodenum is really important because basically your stomach turns everything to liquid. It's called chyme, C-H-Y-M-E. So your stomach literally turns food, in a perfect stomach world, it gets turned into chyme, right? I'm telling you the health of your gut. And then there's all kinds of things that don't work perfect here. And then that liquid seeps down into the duodenum, the first part of your small intestine. And everything starts turning to more from macronutrients to micro. So proteins, they have to go all the way to the liver. They just get pre-broken down. Fats get broken down here, carbs get broken down here. And they get help, which is right about here, from 2 supporting factors to each side. So right here, the size of, again, your fist is your gallbladder. And right here, the size of an extended hand is your pancreas. And when you say you ate a bunch of ghee, which I am not against, but it is a saturated fat. Let's be honest with ourselves. You know, if you did an essential fatty acid like a raw fat, your body doesn't need to do anything to break it down. It's bioavailable. But the moment you have a saturated fat, even like an avocado, which I'm totally a fan of, but you know, they have saturation. So if your stomach couldn't break it down, then your gallbladder is going to spit out bile that it holds. It's going to spit that bile out, and it's like, whoa, there's fats in there that need to be converted into essential fatty acids so that they're digestible. And so your gallbladder literally is just a storage vessel for bile, what are called bile salts. And it spits it out, and it's, you know, your body's natural solvent. It literally makes water and oil mix. So it breaks your fats down for you. And then you have your pancreas, which I do not think enough people are talking about. It's the gland of the digestive tract. It's also the gland of your solar plexus chakra. So it's all about gut instincts, protection, boundaries, abilities. But people just think the pancreas is just insulin, blood sugar levels, and leave it at that. But actually your pancreas stores electrolytes, and it also stores enzymes. And then it also converts all your sugars into glucose, fructose, galactose from dairy. Okay, so it converts sugars. And really better than say convert sugars, because that's only one way to look at it, your pancreas is what will spit out enzymes and electrolytes, water supply. Think of an electrolyte as having a water supply that's needed to help you convert carbohydrates. So your gallbladder's over here and it's helping you convert fats, and your pancreas is over here and it's helping you convert carbohydrates. So as soon as that food leaves that stomach and goes into that very first part of the small intestines, duodenum, you have these two supporting factors depending on what your body's trying to break down. In a perfect world, this would all have gotten converted into fatty acids and steroids, which is, you know, part of the whole pancreas hormonal picture. And your blood sugar levels, it would be how much sugar is needed in your blood to sustain health. And you would convert it. You would actually more than just convert it. It would get converted and it would actually get absorbed into the bloodstream via the intestinal wall. So your small intestines actually is permeable. If you have toxins in your blood, it can kind of get into your intestines. But mostly we break down our food and it seeps through the intestinal wall, breaks the blood barrier, and now you got vitamins and minerals straight into your bloodstream, helping you have energy and strength and think straight and see straight, walk straight, all these things we have to do with our food energy. Okay, so this is like, wow, how awesome is this? Just that right there. But it doesn't always go perfect. So sometimes there weren't enough enzymes in the pancreas and now you still have a whole bunch of like bread sitting around, or it could even be rice or quinoa. It doesn't have to be a processed carb. You know, let's stay whole food. Say you're not converting quinoa because you don't have enough pancreatic enzymes. Or say you're eating ghee and you need ghee and it's nourishing, but it just seems to, like, you know, make you belch and just kind of doesn't feel like it's sitting right. It might be the amount you're eating, but it might also be that you don't have any bile stored in that gallbladder to help you convert fats. So some of these things can happen when the gallbladder can't help, when the pancreas can't help, or if the food didn't break down already in the stomach. Right there, you're going to have a whole lot of food debris that some of it is going to get converted in the next two parts of the small intestines, and it's going to be like, okay, that worked. But some of it is going to be bacteria that your body's like, no, I don't want to absorb that. And some of it's going to be a bunch of fiber where the body's like, I need that. That doesn't get out there to the bloodstream. I need that for bulking up all these toxins or all this undigested food. And so that's what the last part of our small intestines does for us, is it starts bulking everything. And there's peristalsis rings, one after another throughout the whole intestines. If you stretched them out, they'd be the length of a football field, you know, but they fit in here because of all the peristalsis rings. And those peristalsis, you're just wringing out liquid so you can absorb it, vitamins and minerals getting absorbed, and then we start wringing it out, and then we start taking our fiber and our bulk food or any of the bacteria that was in the food, and your lower small intestines start saying, wait, let's stop and collect. Let's stop and collect. Let's see what's going on. How much stuff have we collected along the way? You know, we got a little journey out of the colon here. Let's get ready for the journey, right? So everything stops at what's called the ileum, the ileocecal valve, like 7 o'clock in your abdomen. You have this little pocket. It's literally a U-joint, like in plumbing. okay? And all that debris, whether it be bacteria or food undigested, all of that debris sits there for a minute and kind of bulks up and collects, because your colon's only job, which is ascending, transverse, descending, okay? The only job your colon has is to get all that debris out. It has no other function than to just get debris out of your body that isn't serving you. So imagine how clean the colon needs to be if you want to feel clean, or if you want to, feel like you don't have to do a big detox. Keeping our intestines clean in Ayurveda is like the #1 priority, because that's how we don't get further issues. We keep all that debris getting out. Okay? But before it goes along this long journey, it has to actually go uphill and then go across, then it gets downhill and out. And it does that again so that there's a certain way it doesn't bulk up and clog you up. But that ileocecal valve is sitting there, and there's this tiny little finger-like thing hanging off that ileocecal valve, your appendix. It hangs right off the ileocecal valve, right there.
Attached to it?
Yeah. And your appendix is an immune filter. So literally your appendix, all that stuff stops there, and the appendix filters as much of it as it can. Now that depends on how well your immunity is and how functional your appendix is. And it is an extra filter, so if you don't have an appendix, you can calm down, it's okay. You can just don't eat bacteria-related foods and have a lot of chemical exposure, and you'll be fine, because you won't need it, But that's what your appendix does for you. It actually sends out a whole bunch of, immunoglobulins and some platelets that it stores and immunity-based enzymes, and it converts any of that bacteria and those toxins that it possibly can to make it safer for your colon's journey. Okay, so without an appendix, the truth is you do have more bacteria that could get up into the colon. So people without an appendix have to really watch their colon health. That is a true statement. I don't want to scare you, but it's good to know, because a lot of people got their appendix removed when they were little. And the reason for that is because this whole process wasn't going well. And, we were eating this, that, and the other, and maybe it wasn't all whole food, or maybe it wasn't all timely, or, excuse me, or maybe it wasn't the right amount. Basically, in Ayurveda, they believe in quality and quantity. Quality and quantity. So if the quality and the quantity isn't spot on, then you have a really big chance of getting a lot of congestion through here, and unfortunately it sometimes explodes that little filter because it clogs it up so much. And that's kind of what happens a lot for children.